Welcome to A Delhi Love, Ishq Mohabbat Pyar, the podcast that treats Delhiwalas to captivating conversations on living and loving all things Delhi. Delhi is not just a place, it's a state of mind, an attitude that leaves a mark on everyone who visits or calls it home. I'm Yasmin Kidwai, your host, a documentary filmmaker, former municipal councillor, and at heart, the quintessential Delhi girl. I love how Delhi is both old and new at the same time. I value its history and heritage and love exploring the new aspects of the city we share. I'm no expert, but I grew up in the gullies here, enjoyed public service here, and just like you, shared a deep passion for Delhi's enigmatic soul. Together, let's embrace the delightful contradictions that make Delhi the city it is. After all, around every corner, there must be 1,000 dastans to share in this megacity of a million conversations. Heritage walks are immersive journeys. They bring us forgotten tales, architectural marvels, and cultural traditions. They're portals to a city's heart, allowing us to learn of the histories and mysteries a city offers. Today we are meeting Sohail Hashmi, a passionate heritage walker, an author, a linguist, social activist, filmmaker, and a heritage conservationist. Sohail Sahab is also a staunch advocate of heritage preservation and history conservation when development and revamping projects are being undertaken. He conducts immersive Delhi heritage walks to introduce citizens, especially children, to Delhi.
There is no city like Delhi.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we haven't explored. How can you be a student of history living in Delhi, not visit the Red Fort? This was the center of 1857. The first person who started exploring Delhi with his students was somebody who taught history at St. Stephen's College. There are lanes and there are stories in these lanes. In each lane has its own history.
5 days in Agra.
It is not enough. It is not enough.
So Sohail sir, very warm welcome to
Thank
Delhi
you very
Love,
much.
Ishq Mohabbat Pyar. That's the name of the podcast. And being a Delhiite, we've often wondered, where is this community we can form for all of us to connect? So the podcast is actually an effort by all of us to form this Delhi community where all of us can come together and talk about all things Delhi. And talking of Delhi, what I wanted to talk to you particularly about is the concept of heritage walks. It's become very popular in Delhi, and everybody is suddenly talking about heritage walks. They're on Twitter, you get constant messages. But exactly what is a heritage walk? What qualifies as a heritage walk?
Well, given this, what is known as the social media and very limited attention spans, people don't really realize that this is not something that happened post-COVID.
Yeah.
And actually, the first person who started exploring Delhi with his students was somebody who taught history at St. Stephen's College.
And who was that?
Professor Percival Spear. All of us have read his History of India Volume 2 when we were in college. Volume 1 was written by Romila Thapar, which covered the ancient period.
Correct.
And Percival Spear's Volume 2 covered the medieval and modern period. So, and when New Delhi was being designed, Percival Spear was asked to suggest the names of the roads.
Acha.
So, all the roads in New Delhi, the names were given by Percival Spear. And there was a logic.
All the roads.
Almost all the roads, except for the ones that have gotten renamed.
Renamed, of course, that, yeah.
But, so Aurangzeb Road,
Akbar
Prithviraj Road,
yeah.
Akbar Road, Sikandra Road. Why Sikandra Road? Because Akbar is buried there.
And you were saying there's a logic, so I was going to come to that. What is the
Bhagwan Das Road. Bhagwan Das is Akbar's brother-in-law.
And how not many people know that. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So, all of these. Then there is Birbal Road, there is Babar Road.
Todarmal Road.
Todarmal.
Yeah.
All of those connected with the life of Akbar, they are clustered at one
together.
place.
Okay.
So there is Prithviraj Road, there is, so all these, that is how Tughlaq Road, So
And these were all, this is which year we are talking about?
we are talking of the 1930s, when
Okay.
1925-30,
Okay.
when Delhi is being,
Built.
New Delhi
Yeah,
is
yeah,
being built,
yeah.
and in the mind of Percival Spear, people who made a contribution to this city and to the history of this country, the roads were named after them.
After that.
And but it's one of our tragedies. The only musician is Tansen.
Yeah. Yeah.
No other. So there
No,
is no
yeah.
road after Abul Fazal, no road
Yeah.
after Faizi.
There is an
Uh,
Abu Fazal Road.
There is, I think, yes, one
There is
yes,
an Abu
Abul
Fazal
Fazal
Road.
Road.
Yeah, yeah.
But recently, especially in after independence, we have all kinds of people names, roads named after them.
Yeah,
But
more
it's,
so in the recent past. That's been this
yeah,
thing.
and it's tragic that we don't have a road named after Kalidas.
We don't have any. Yeah.
No, we don't have a road named after Bhabhuti, the great writers of the ancient period, and we don't have a road named after Ghalib.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So that is. But I'm digressing. Percival Spear started cycle rides for his students,
Acha.
and he used to cover all the 7 Delhis on bicycle rides.
All the 7 Delhis.
Yes. So there'll be one cycle ride from St. Stephen's College, which was then in Kashmiri Gate. From there to Tughlaqabad.
Acha.
He and his students will ride to Tughlaqabad. Those days you could ride a cycle.
Yes,
in
of course,
Delhi.
and there was space, and there was, yes.
So they would go to Tughlaqabad, and he'll talk about that, and he'll talk about Tughlaqs and all that. So he started this, and finally they were all put together in, and then about 10-15 years later, Professor Narayani Gupta revisited those rides, and she brought out an edited and updated version of those cycle rides, but as walks.
Acha. Okay.
So
and this we
basically
now in the this is independence, as we've reached independence. That's
Professor Narayani Gupta updated this book, I think, about 15 years ago.
Oh, just okay. That's a recent this thing.
And Professor Narayani Gupta was the one who set up the Delhi Heritage Society. He was one of those people who set up the Delhi Heritage Society, and they started walks in Delhi.
So it's as recent a phenomena as 15 years then?
No, but Narayani Gupta would have done it much earlier, about 25-30 years ago maybe, or 40 years, because she taught in several colleges in Delhi. Then she was head of the Department of History in Jamia. And she's done, her PhD is a phenomenal work.
And what is that one?
Which is the Delhi between the two empires. The collapse of the Mughal and the rise of the British, the period between these two. That is when the character of Delhi changes and all that. The kind of data she brings in and the insights she has on what is happening to Delhi, phenomenal. So, and then there was Indian National Trust for Art, Culture and Heritage, who started organizing walks. So, I didn't know of any of this. Like all other Delhi walas, we were totally oblivious of what is happening and the kind of efforts that have gone into this. I was running a creative activity center for children.
Okay. And where was this?
This was in Vasant Kunj. Started by Rahul Bhandare, who comes from a very illustrious family of lawyers and jurists. His mother was the Chief Justice of Delhi High Court.
Okay.
Sunanda Bhandare.
Of course.
And his sister is a very eminent lawyer. His father is a very eminent Supreme Court lawyer. He was also formerly the governor of Odisha. So Rahul thought of setting up these creative activity centers where children could come after school and do everything for which there is no place in school. Dance, paint, photography, creative writing, studying nature, etc., etc. So, and he asked me to run this center. I met him through Shubha Mudgal.
Acha.
who's an old friend, and she said, that this friend of ours has this very good idea. Why don't you go and meet him? I was between jobs. So I went and met him. We hit it off, and that is how this center started after a year and a half of planning and all that. And I started doing a loosely structured program called My World, making kids distinguish a parrot from a sparrow.
Okay.
Kids are going to school, they have no idea. And I realized that kids who are growing up in the city know nothing of the city. Nothing at all. They get up in the morning, rush through their breakfast, get ready, pick up their bags, run out, get into the school bus, go to school, come back. There's nobody at home. Both parents work. The key is with somebody's house, or it is hidden under a doormat.
That was the
that's how
yes,
all our kids have grown up.
Yeah.
They'll go in, then the mother will call.
Yeah.
बेटे घर आ गए? वो उसमें फ्रिज में से करी निकाल देना, रोटी वहां रखी हुई है, माइक्रो में गर्म कर लो, देखो बेटे माइक्रो को ऑफ कर देना, खाना खा लो, फिर खाना खा के थोड़ा आराम कर लेना, फिर होमवर्क कर लेना, मैं
That's all. Yeah, that was.
And then when the parents come in, then the children are escorted into the colony park.
Yeah.
They are not allowed to go out on their own because the parks are no longer safe.
Yeah.
When the mother or father will sit, the kids play for half an hour. Chalo beche, homework karna. Then they do their homework.
That was a typical life of
and leave.
Yeah.
If parents have money, then in the summer vacation, kids go to Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Or Singapore. Or Bangkok.
I was going to say that. Yeah. They're not even roaming up. They're not even in their own country.
No.
Yeah,
and
whoever,
if the parents can't afford it, or they are not getting chutti from office, the parents go to Nana Nani or Dada Dadi.
Children are dropped there. Yeah.
They are dropped there for 15, 20 days. That's it.
Yeah.
So I started these Discover Delhi walks.
Acha.
With the kids. And since our center was in Vasant Kunj, the first place where I took them was in the Sanjay 1, which is a protected forest. Many of these kids stayed in Vasant Kunj. They had never stepped inside.
And they probably didn't know of it also.
They knew, but it wasn't considered safe.
Yeah, of course.
So, वहाँ तो wild animals थे ना. They didn't know what wild animals. So then gradually I began to expand that and started taking kids to the scattered sites of the 7 cities of Delhi. And the kids got very excited. They must have gone and discussed it with their parents, because we used to take them out every second Saturday. Then I got a delegation of parents.
Oh, okay.
सर हमें भी दिल्ली दिखाइए.
अच्छा.
तो ऐसे दिखा देंगे, बट उसमें आप बच्चों के साथ नहीं आएंगे.
अच्छा.
Because kids, you pitch it at a level of the kids.
Yes, बिल्कुल.
You know. अब वो 6 साल का बच्चा है. He is not interested in Ghiasuddin Tughlaq.
Yes.
But there is a tunnel he wants to go inside.
Yes.
You know. There is a step where he wants. You know. So, but you introduce them to these spaces. They are exciting places.
Yes.
So then I started doing these walks with parents. And there's this magazine called Time Out.
Yes, it had about 15 years, 20 years back, become very popular.
So they got wind of this, and they began to call me. What are the walks you are organizing this week?
And they would list them.
To feature them, list them, and the phone number where people
could join it.
And then NDTV, because one of the parents
was working there.
Was working with NDTV. Okay. So she went and discussed it with NDTV, and NDTV did a breakfast show with me.
Okay.
That's how the words
spread. So the media has some good...
No, absolutely. And so it is through Time Out and through NDTV that these walks
became popular in Delhi.
Became popular, then through word of mouth it began to spread. But the point I'm trying to make is that this is not something that started yesterday.
Correct.
This has been going on. There is a history to this. And people have studied it and identified areas, identified a walk that you can do in an area. You can't
mapped it.
Yeah, and mapped it.
You can't suddenly just,
So, Intact did great work in this. And only after I had started my walks, that I came across the kind of work that Intac had done, and I started collecting, and I benefited greatly from the work
Hmm.
that
And you then
Intac.
you got an award by
That
Intact.
had that happened,
Yeah.
that after 10-15 years, and one is grateful for the
Hmm.
recognition. But so there is Percival Spear, there is Narayani Gupta, there is
Hmm.
Intac. These are the people whose
Yeah.
I have benefited from their work greatly.
Hmm.
And now there are a whole lot of people.
Lots of people, and I
Lots of
think it's
people.
it's kind of social media has kind of put the
It
spotlight
has.
on
It
it,
has.
and there are so many heritage walks happening all
Yeah.
over,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is, would you say that's good because lot more people are
No.
getting
No.
interested?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the more the merrier, I say,
Yes.
because this city, which has been a capital for close to 1,000 years, there aren't too many cities like that.
Yeah.
You know,
No, Delhi is I don't think there's any city like
because
Delhi.
old
The
Rome,
kind,
old
yeah.
Rome doesn't have the continuity.
Yes, it doesn't have.
It
Yeah.
was a
Yeah.
great city,
That's what I
and
was saying,
yeah,
that there is really
but this
nothing like Delhi. Yeah.
continuity, and
Yeah.
because of that,
Yeah.
there is no city like that.
Hmm.
I am prepared to bet my Sunday hat, as the expression goes, on
No,
this.
I'm with you. I'm
You know,
completely with you on that.
so
Yeah.
there is no city like
Yeah.
Delhi. Unfortunately, we haven't explored it.
Enough. Even there's still more to.
No, because if you look at how the tourists are brought into the city,
Yeah. Yeah.
they were originally taken to the Red Fort and the Qutub, and then they were put on the bus to Agra,
Yeah. The
where they
golden
were,
triangle that had to be covered in like
and they
one
were
day. Yeah.
shown two buildings in Agra, and then they were put on the bus to Jaipur, and
And
in
वो रास्ते में parliament and सब दिखाते हुए,
yes,
it's
yes,
like
yes,
the
yeah,
tour
yeah, yeah.
operators did
So,
work like that. Yeah. But
and you go to Rome,
yeah.
every street corner there is a plaque, there is a history.
Yeah.
You have more than that in Delhi.
Yeah. And in Rome, it's limited to that one
Yes,
area.
yes,
In
yes,
fact,
yes,
yeah,
yes, yes,
Delhi we
yeah,
have
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
junctures of that.
yeah,
But
yeah.
tell me, with your which is one of the most popular heritage walks as per you in Delhi,
Well, the
or rather should be, which is like the most important.
you see the request that if people make the request, they would say Chandni Chowk ki walk kara dijiye. Now, I spend quite a lot of my time that it is Shahjahanabad, and Shahjahanabad is not only Chandni Chowk. I do 8 walks in Chandni, 9.
In Chandni Chowk itself.
In Shahjahanabad,
Huh.
of which 3 walks happen in Chandni Chowk in
Huh.
segments, because you can't do all of
Yeah,
Chandni
in
Chowk
one
in
day.
one walk.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but I do 8 walks, and add to that a walk for vegetarian street food and another walk for non-vegetarian street food, because they happen at different
Yeah.
times of the day,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
happen in different localities. So, but aside from these, I do 15, 16 walks in the earlier Delhis.
Okay.
And some of my favorites are in the earlier Delhis.
Okay.
The ruins behind Qutub Minar, it's a treasure trove.
Yeah.
It's an archaeological museum.
And most of the books refer to it about
Yeah,
Delhi.
yeah,
Almost
yeah,
every
yeah.
book will have a reference
Yeah,
to the
yeah,
area
yeah.
behind the
Then
Qutub Minar.
there is Tughlaqabad.
Yeah. Tughlaqabad, I really don't know. Is there access because of the monkeys and all? Does one still have
And the
access?
monkeys are our gift, because
Because of the because of the
we picked them up from New Delhi district,
yes, I
and
know.
dumped them there.
Yeah, yeah.
And because
the large scale building which has happened in this area is primarily responsible for it.
yeah. And without realizing that, because we keep feeding the monkeys, we have altered their lifestyle.
Yeah, and yeah,
We
eating
have-
patterns. Yeah.
We have seriously modified their mating behavior. This is the rhesus monkey, from which
The
we
one
get
which is seen all over Delhi now.
from which we get the RH factor of our blood. It was
Hmm.
first discovered in them,
Hmm.
and it is thanks to research on them
Hmm.
that blood transfusion became possible.
Correct. Yeah.
Now, these monkeys in the wild, they mate twice a year, before the monsoons and before spring, because by the time the little ones are born, there is plenty of food.
Correct.
Okay? And monkeys eat anything. They'll eat
Yeah.
insects,
Hmm.
and they'll eat fruit, and they'll eat little chicks
Yeah.
from nests,
Yeah.
and they eat eggs. All this becomes available during these 2 seasons. But now, since we are constantly feeding them, they have stopped foraging for food. They know there are people who are going to bring food.
And that affects the mating.
Because now food is available all through the year.
Hmm.
All animals mate.
Hmm.
That mating instinct is triggered by availability of food. It is at the peak of summer that all herbivores mate. Because when the monsoon, food is available. And that is why all the carnivores also mate at that time. So by the time the little ones are born, there is grass for them.
Yeah.
There is grass for the mother, which helps her produce enough milk for the. And for the carnivores, there are these helpless little calves that they can hunt to feed themselves and therefore supply milk for their kids. So that is the cycle.
That is the cycle. But then now, are you able to go to that area? Because
You can go. You can go. The only protection you have to take is don't carry food with you.
And don't attack the monkeys.
No. You walk and don't look at them.
Yeah.
You try attacking them, then you are invited.
Yeah. That is, I think, when people kind of this thing them.
Yeah.
So, how does a typical heritage walk with you go? Can I ask you to describe your a good heritage walk, or how would it go with you particularly?
How I do it is, earlier I used to do one walk every Sunday, beginning the first Sunday of October and ending the last Sunday of March.
Okay.
So 6 months, that will give you about 26 weeks.
Yeah.
One walk every week. So I did one walk once a year.
Are you still doing as many?
I do now. I do a walk every Saturday and every Sunday.
Acha.
It's a different walk. So now I compress them in 13 weeks.
Acha, you're not going up. You're starting in October only.
Start in October from the first Saturday. Then I do a walk on Sunday. Then next Saturday, Sunday, like that. So by the end of December, I have done all the walks that I do in Delhi.
Acha. And then why have you compressed the period?
Because then I have January, February, March free, when the weather is still
pleasant in Delhi.
And not only Delhi, in its surroundings. So now I have added a 5-day trip to Agra. You explore Agra for 5 days.
5 days in Agra?
It is not enough. It is not enough.
Acha.
We have no idea. Agra was capital for more than 200 years.
Yes, of course.
Between Taimur and Shah Jahan, Agra is the capital with the exception of Humayun.
Yeah.
And then it's an important center for the British.
For the British too?
For the British. And for the Church of North India. The diocese was Agra.
Oh, I didn't know that. Acha, all right.
The Delhi diocese happened much later.
Okay.
So all the church-related activities, which would mean colleges, schools, churches, whole lot of those things built by the missionaries, they are far more in Bombay than they are in Agra than they are in Delhi. The first grave of the first Britisher who ever set foot in India
is in Agra?
Is in Agra.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a phenomenal graveyard. You can spend an entire day there. Because Begum Samru's husband is buried there. There is a small Taj Mahal made of sandstone.
Yes.
Built by a woman for her husband.
Okay.
Armenian Jews are buried there. It's a phenomenal,
I can imagine,
place. Architecturally, it's a treasure house.
And people normally do like this half-day trip to Agra.
Yeah, they go and see the Taj and they see this thing. They don't even go to the mausoleum of Mumtaz's parents. And they don't go to the first Mughal garden built in India. Which Babur built, which is in Agra.
Yeah, and which set the tone for all the other gardens, and he was experimenting with his plantations there. Yeah.
So there is so much.
Yes.
They one entire walk of colonial Agra, and then one walk of old
And how
Agra.
many people normally would go with you on this thing?
Depends. I don't take a group of more than 12
at a time.
So I do 5 days in Agra.
Hmm.
I do 5 days in Mandu.
Oh.
I do 5 days in which is happening now on the 14th of December.
Hmm.
Gwalior, Bateshwar, which is a phenomenal site.
Where is Bateshwar?
Bateshwar is in Morena.
Okay,
Which
I mean
is
that's an area I'm very familiar with, but I didn't know. But
in Madhya Pradesh.
Yes. Huh.
And Bhind, Morena were the
Yeah.
hotbed of the dacoits.
Yeah.
So Morena has this phenomenal collection of temples. 200 temples at one site.
Is this
Major
the area where the
restoration of
dacoits come to pay the obeisance and all that?
Yes.
That's fascinating. I've been there.
Yeah,
That's fascinating.
So that there is a temple that inspired the parliament.
Yes, of course,
The
that is there.
Chaucer
The
temple,
Chaucer Yogini temple. Yeah.
There is a temple that was.
That's an exact. I mean, it's almost if you see it, it's a fascinating. That's a beautiful.
Then there is this temple which was converted by when the Jats took over this area. They converted that temple into a little fortress. So just the entry of the temple remains. And what phenomenal carving! What phenomenal carving! Breathtaking. There is an entire scene of Patal Lok. There are skeletons. And you have facial expressions on those skeletons. My God. It just takes your breath away.
Yeah.
So we go there. So we do Gwalior, we do Bateshwar, then we go to Datia.
Okay,
The Datia Fort, and then Orcha. So 5 days there. And from this year, I am starting. I and all the Madhya Pradesh tours I do with a very dear friend who knows Agra, Madhya Pradesh very well. So from this year, we are starting a 5-day trip to Bhopal and its surroundings.
That itself is like, yeah.
So there is Sanchi, there is Sadhara,
Bhimbetka,
Udaygiri cave, there is Bhimbetka, there is Bhojpur. There is so much. There is so much in this country, and we don't explore these places.
In Delhi, you were telling me about the heritage walks here. What is your you said the old ones you enjoy more. What are the kind of, when people who've never been on a heritage walk, they come with you, what are the kind of questions you'll get? How does it proceed? How long is a typical heritage walk?
Most of my walks are about 3 hours. But the one behind of the ruins behind Mehroli, they take about 4.5 to 5 hours.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that's why I break Chandni Chowk into 3, because I do 3-hour walks across 3 days to be able to, because it's not just one street. There are lanes. And there are stories in these lanes. In each lane has its own history, So one of my favorites in Old Delhi is the walk that I begin from Chavdi metro station, and I end it when I reach Chandni Chowk.
Okay, and that typically takes you like about 5 hours.
4 and a half hours. Yeah. So we begin from Chavdi, you do all the history of Chavdi. You also keep on stopping at these street food joints and all that. Then you do this Babe Lalu Jasrai temple in Chipiwalan. It's a 250-year-old temple. And this was built when a substantial population of Punjabi Khatris migrated to Delhi.
In the partition period.
No, 17th century.
In the 17th century.
Yeah, right after the death of Babur, of Aurangzeb, in the reign of Farrukhsiyar. There were major migrations of Hindu Khatris and Muslim Khatris to Delhi. Muslim Khatris settled down in Ballimaran, which is the area of the Qawm-e Punjabiyan. They are all Khatris who converted in the 17th century. So they live there, and the Hindu Khatris in Chipiwala. So you have this temple. Then from there you go to Jama Masjid. Then you walk down Paiwalan and you go to Dariba. Then you walk through Dariba, then Kinari Bazaar, and then you reach Chandni Chowk.
And what's the typical reaction you get? I mean, even people who've lived all their life in Delhi would not know of, you know the main thing is चावड़ी बाजार से चांदनी चौक जाना and वहाँ खाना बहुत अच्छा मिलेगा और यहाँ main ये जामा मस्जिद है. But what is normally people's reaction and what kind of questions
You see,
did you
I
get?
tell you, I did a walk this past Saturday in Lodi Garden. And it's typically 2.5 hour to 3 hour walk. And this gentleman who lives in Jorba, across the road, he said, I come here to jog.
Yeah.
I run past these buildings, but I had no idea that this is the mausoleum of a Sayyid period king. That and
predating the Mughals.
Right after Temur.
Yeah.
And then you have Lodis, and you have mausoleum inside a garden. He said, we just used to run around, we have never stepped inside. And this I ascribe to some way to a total lack of curiosity. We are not curious. It is really disturbing.
And that's then not a recent phenomenon.
No.
It's,
it is not.
We talk
it is
about
not, because this friend of mine,
media and all, but it's not a recent phenomenon.
This friend of mine who's been writing for 4 decades on music is a very well respected music critic. So in one piece that I was reading yesterday, a book of his articles has come out. He says, when we go to a concert, have we ever wondered how was the sitar made? So we don't have this. For some strange reason, we are constantly discouraged from asking questions.
Yeah.
और वो बचपन से होता है.
Distracted.
नहीं. बहुत सवाल पूछते हो.
It's never.
बड़ों से सवाल पूछते हो, बहस करते हो. So this is there, and that is why I constantly try to provoke those who are with me to asking questions.
And how would you normally do that?
And because some of the things that I try to bring out, which people don't notice at all, because we walk there, we have been trained. Dekha, chalo ho gaya, chalo bhai chalo. So I tell them, you go to this first mosque built in Delhi, what is popularly known as Qubbatul Islam. Nobody knows that this is a name given to it in the 19th century. This is not the name of this mosque. This was the Jama Masjid, or Jami Masjid, which means a congregational mosque. An alternative name that was used occasionally was Qubbat, not Qubbat, but Qubbat. And Qubbat means a dome. So the dome of Islam, which was an inviting place, you could come and take shelter, etc., etc. That was the given name. Rarely used, it was known as Jami. But I take them to the west wall and I show them. There are verses of the Quran carved on all the arches. But you look closely, they are all decorated with lotuses.
Yes, I've seen that. Yeah, I'm aware of that. Yes, yeah.
And then I tell them the story of the lotus. How did the lotus become a symbol of purity? And how is it that a mason who doesn't know Arabic
was able to carve
those texts would have been first written on a piece of paper, then enlarged on these arches which are up to 60 feet high or whatever. That little word which covered 1 centimeter suddenly becomes 2 feet by 2 feet. This is how I imagine the situation. That on a piece of paper or on a piece of parchment, a calligrapher would have drawn the shape of the arch. And the architect would have got the drawing done. And we have found such drawings earlier. I'm not imagining this practice. And then some Islamic scholar would have been consulted what verses should go there. He would have selected the verses and a calligrapher would have inscribed them on that paper. Now this is a piece of paper, maybe 2 feet by, or parchment 2 feet by 2 feet. Now suddenly the masons are told, blow it up into 60 feet arches. So they would begin to carve stones, cut stones to that size, and probably those arches would have been laid out on the ground first. And then the calligrapher would have come with a huge brush and he would have
Done it, and then they would have
done it,
yeah.
and then they would have been told to carve out everything. But before that begin, they realize that there's lot of empty space. Because you wrote the word bism in 1 centimeter. Now it is 2 feet by 2 feet. There's a lot of empty space. That 1 millimeter on the side now becomes 15 centimeters.
After putting it, they must have realized. Yeah.
After it is written down on the expanded stones. Then the architect would have asked the mason, embellish it. इसे decorate करो. Now, the mason does not know Arabic.
Yes.
He nobody, you didn't import masons from
there.
Masons are all local people.
They're local Indians,
people. They know the stone, they know how to carve it. So the mason is asked now to decorate it. The mason knows that this is the holy language of these people who have recently arrived. He knows this is a place of worship. What can he carve there but lotus?
How beautiful.
Because the lotus is the throne of all the gods. You can't get purer than that. And if you look closely at those arches, each arch begins with a kalash.
Achha.
Inside of each arch there is a kalash, and it is beautifully carved. It has lotus petals on its base.
Okay.
And then a creeper begins and goes all around the arch and comes down on the other side inside another kalash. And the kalash neck is lined with leaves, and I think they are mango leaves. Now these are symbols that are venerated by the Indians. They are symbols of prosperity. The kalash is a symbol of prosperity, of well-being, of life, and also of death. Because you carry the ashes in a kalash. So all these are Indian icons. They are not Hindu icons. They became Hindu icons when the English began calling them, these are Hindu elements. They are Indian elements. Because
and then that's the synchronicity we talk about, the coming together of these two, and it's not an intangible thing.
Because you see the spread of the lotus. I think that is how it would have happened in animist times, when we hadn't imagined any gods. We
had only symbols to go by.
We had the spirit of the forest, we venerated the spirit of the river, the spirit
sun,
of the mountain,
the moon,
etc.
the nature was,
And in that time, somebody noticed this beautiful flower in a pool of stagnant water, of mud, of
growing there, and
of decomposing leaves and broken twigs and all that. And there is the stink of decomposition.
And that the lotus grows.
And there the lotus grows. And I would like to believe that it was a woman who first noticed this. Because women notice these things. And she would have said to herself, you can rise above all this muck and be pure. And that is when the lotus became a symbol of purity. And later when we imagined gods, and we imagined gods in our own form, all of them walk on their hind legs. All of them have families, children. You know.
Because we started imagining them as
they are known as anthropomorphic gods. And they were imagined like this all over the world. The Egyptians, the Sumerians, the Romans, all of them imagined gods in human form. And somebody would have thought they will need a place to sit. And so then you thought of the lotus, because gods could not sit on the ground. They were gods. They required a throne, and we gave them the throne of the lotus.
So, do you talk about all this explanation in the heritage walk?
And I show them.
And what is the reaction you normally get on when you're taking people through this? It's such a visually stimulating experience.
So it is also because they wonder why has this never been pointed out? Because this is the mosque built by those who demolished 24 temples. and use the stone to build this mosque.
Hmm.
And in that mosque, you have this wall covered with lotuses.
Yeah. Hmm.
So there are things happening at several levels,
Hmm.
and this is what you try to
And that's what
show.
history is,
That
right?
is what
It's the
history
complicated.
is.
We have to accept it in its layers
It
and
is the
forms.
layers, and it is this phenomenal diversity.
Yeah.
You look at the west wall in the mausoleum of Shamsuddin Altamash.
Hmm.
The west wall, which you face if you want to pray for Altamash's soul, it has 8 kalashes and 3 lotuses carved in the west wall. And people have been praying there for 700 years, and nobody had any problem. Till the Anglo-Saxon art historian came and told us these are Hindu elements. They were Indian elements.
Yeah.
That
demarcation only came with the
the
British putting it.
They created this nonsense of Hindu architecture,
which we are very aware why that happened.
Hindu architecture and Islamic architecture, and so I try to show that these categories are wrong. You have Iranian architecture, you have Afghan architecture, you have
not simply two different kinds of architecture.
Just as you have Chola architecture, Chera architecture, Vijayanagar architecture, Hoysala architecture, you have Jaisalmer architecture, Jodhpur architecture, Bikaner architecture, Bengal architecture, you have Kangra architecture, you have,
as many,
as many people, as many forms of, and then I tell them there is nothing called Islamic architecture. Because the dome was invented by pre-Christian Romans. It is not an Islamic thing. The arch was first used by the Sumerians, much before the Roman Empire.
Does this become too much information for people, or is it an interesting story form?
But people have been taking it in, and they have been liking it because
and they keep coming back.
And they tell their friends and all that, because after the NDTV
the
interview that happened about 15 years ago, maybe longer, I haven't done any publicity.
But then tell me, how did heritage walks become so popular in Delhi? In fact, I'm not saying it because I'm a Delhiite and you're a Delhiite, but I would say Delhi has been the pioneer. Now they're happening all over the country. Whichever city you go, the first thing you most people do, or at least
other countries have
doing it. But in our other countries have been having, but in our country, now, I kind of feel Delhi has been the
Delhi has.
It's I think because of the history that
also the phenomenal layers that are there. But there is this young man who used to be posted in Delhi, and he used to come to my walks. Vinayak Talwar, and he's, I think, a banker, or he's into finance and all that, and then he got posted in Bombay. Now he is a major walk leader in Bombay, and he prefaces his walk by saying, I am not a Bombayite, I am a Delhi wala, but I'll show you your city. And I have done a walk with him in Bombay. It is phenomenal.
Really?
Absolutely. So you need passion, you need to love a city to be able to take out these details. So, for example, he took me to a public urinal, which is mentioned in a short story by Manto.
Oh.
That urinal is still there.
And where is this in Bombay?
This is in the right in the old Bombay area near Opera House and all that, in that area. Where the Muslim League had an office, and which is known as the Jinnah House, and next to that is the Congress House, and and where all the concerts used to happen, and where did Master Deodhar organize his concerts, and where did the muse of Raja Ravi Verma live,
that area.
You need to look at these things, you need to discover them, and then, make people realize that in where they pass every day, there is history.
There is history. What are the kind of people who normally come to your walk in Delhi? What kind of people would there be? Would there be students, or would there be...
you mentioned... Students normally don't come to my walks. Now many colleges, fortunately, have heritage clubs.
That's also a very recent
Yes,
phenomena.
yes,
Yeah,
this has
yeah,
happened in the last 10, 12
yeah,
years.
yeah.
Many schools have heritage clubs.
Hmm.
And so I keep on working with many of these schools.
Hmm.
For example, with Bluebell School, I did a project which lasted 5 years.
Oh, okay.
So I took up these kids in class 6
Hmm.
and I did a set of monuments,
Hmm.
some of the earliest monuments, which I continued in class 7, class 8, class 9.
Hmm.
The same bunch of students, they came over 4 years
Hmm.
to
Oh, yeah.
explore Delhi.
And that is a changing period in a child's life also,
Yes,
you
yes,
know.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
that would
yes.
have been. But going the heritage walks in the kind of not just you know, whoever is, when there are these where you get a sense of history and your present, does it lead to a sense of identity for Delhi and the Delhiite? Like you do feel a sense of, this is, and not many people know, like you're saying, somebody's, walking in Lodi Garden or running in Lodi
Mm,
Garden and you're passing it. And this heritage walks help bring a sense of,
yeah,
build a sense
yeah,
of
yeah, yeah,
identity.
yeah. No,
And
no,
have you seen that
but
happen with?
I've seen it in strange ways.
Hmm.
There was a girl who used to come to leap years,
Hmm.
and she joined these fortnightly
Hmm.
excursions,
Hmm.
and then she dropped out. It was an activity center. She came for a couple of years, and then
Hmm.
she left.
Hmm.
I was in this university, private university, Ashoka.
Hmm.
They had called me to talk to their students about Delhi. So I was showing them, doing a slideshow and all that. And once I finished, this girl came running and she hugged me and she started crying.
Hmm.
And she said, Sir, you won't remember me, but I used to be in leap years
As a little child.
as a little
Oh,
child,
okay.
6, 7 year old.
Hmm.
And she says, I'm studying history because of the walks that I did with you.
Oh,
You know,
yes.
so it is at this level
Hmm.
that, and there are several students in
Hmm.
these schools that I have worked with and
Hmm.
taken them on walks and all that. There are many who have uh,
Yeah,
gone and taken history.
as a subject,
Yeah,
which is
yeah,
so important for
yeah,
for the new generations to study where we
absolutely.
come from.
The other thing that which is again a very heartwarming thing, I was doing a walk for the students of an architecture institute,
Hmm.
Institute of Architecture, and they came and said, I had never understood the Corbel Arch.
Hmm.
I have understood it today,
Hmm.
and what important role it has in the evolution of the arch.
Hmm.
So there are these things that suddenly make you think that
Yeah,
what you are doing is not
is
just a passion, is not just a waste of time,
hmm.
but
Yeah, there's
it is
actually
making some contribution somewhere.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'm.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure that. I mean, just going through a walk and just seeing your own city through it's
Absolutely.
actually through a new pair
Yeah,
of
yeah,
eyes. You've
yeah.
you've passed it, you've crossed it, but to just see it and to know, literally the history
Yeah.
behind it. And tell me, post the pandemic, there has been this huge surge. And I think that probably comes from that, this isolation that we went into with the pandemic, the
People
sense
were
of,
locked up for 2 years,
and
so
a
they
sense of community somehow is
they are
becoming, they want
and they are
seeking it out,
also
I
they
think.
have also realized
Hmm.
that in this mad rush
Hmm.
to achieve, to reach somewhere, etc., they are missing out on all this.
Hmm.
And so the way Indians are traveling right now within India
It's changing, yes,
is phenomenally
absolutely.
changed,
Yes.
because travel abroad is still not very easy, because
Hmm.
2 years
Hmm.
pile up is there.
Hmm.
So you want to buy a ticket to go to America, US, somewhere, they'll
Hmm.
tell you 6 months के बाद मिलेगा ticket.
Hmm.
The visa is not going to be processed
Hmm.
before 6
Hmm.
months.
Hmm. Hmm.
So they are exploring India. So
I
that has.
personally, I kind of feel that it started as a, the as how would you say, as a necessity kind of, because there was not visas, but now people are looking to it because the this trying to understand the country and gaining experience. And I definitely feel that heritage walks and the word of mouth, it's there, even
Yeah,
if
yeah,
everybody
yeah,
is not going for it, but it's there, the concept
yeah, yeah, yeah.
of it is there. But how important do you feel at a time when history is being modified in many ways, how important do these heritage walks then become? Because then essentially it's actually going to be just this, somewhere only this word of mouth, if
No, no,
as
absolutely.
because
But
there is a
this
modification
was
which we are seeing
I'm
before our eyes.
uh, good that you raised it, because that was something that I wanted to.
Hmm.
I was planning to come to. Is that it is strange, without doing an LLB, you can't become a lawyer. Without doing studying medicine, you cannot be a good doctor. Quite a different matter that now the amendments have allowed that even Ayurveda practitioners can do surgery. Do you know that? We have
No,
this. Yes, this in this.
I was not aware
Yes,
of
this
this.
amendment has been made.
Okay.
Ayurveda doctors, Ayurveda who have done that, they can perform the role of general physicians. This has happened about 20 days ago, a month ago, and I was informed of this from by a very senior surgeon day before yesterday. You know what is happening in South Extension? That fake doctor. The major thing has been South Extension
I
or
have
wherever.
not read
Yes,
this.
it's been in the newspapers for 4 days.
Okay.
Yeah. So likewise, everybody is becoming a historian without ever studying history. Now, when somebody from the newspapers or one of these social media people, they want me to write something or they interview me, how do we describe yourself? Historian, I insist to be not described as a historian, because I have not studied history. I'm not a historian. Conducting heritage walks is not history. But even doing something like this, you need to study. And everything that you speak, you have to cross check. So I caught these two girls with a bunch of American tourists, and they were sitting with a enlargement of a map. I know that map very well. It's an 1850 map of Shah Jahanabad. They had scanned a part of that, and they were talking some total and utter nonsense and pointing out things to them. This was built in this century and this was built in that century. And I had taken some people to that street. I couldn't stop myself. I said, look, stop doing this. This city was built in the 17th century. And all this area was either agricultural land or desolation. There were no ancient temples here. There were no structures here. That entire area just had one bauli, one step well. Otherwise, it was agricultural land. And there are records.
Which specific area are we talking about?
Shahjahanabad.
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 Hmm.
There are land records of the land that was acquired to build the city. So don't do this, and you're not helping anybody. You're creating biases. And many of those who are conducting, not many, but at least some of them, are fly-by-night operators. They pick up things from Wikipedia and present that as history. Wikipedia is not a source of history,
Correct.
because anybody can write anything on Wikipedia. It's an open source encyclopedia. There are some well-meaning people who write posts which are good, but there are also those who have no idea and they're posting stuff.
Which is what I was coming to, like, how somebody wants to do a heritage walk, and how does one? It's like quacks. How do you protect yourself from from a quack? And which I was also going to ask that earlier, if one wanted to visit a historical monument, there were guides available. You would go with a guide, and as compared to seeing it with a somebody who has genuine knowledge and is conducting a heritage walk. So how do you differentiate? I mean, how do you not get caught up with a quack?
You see, I think the first thing is use your own common sense and don't suspend disbelief. Anything being told to you by anybody, begin questioning. And this is what I tell everybody. I said, don't believe a word of what I've told you in the last 3 hours. Go back and double check.
And
If
that's what it is now. Then you have that interest in
yes,
history to get to know. Yeah.
and unless it appeals to your mind that this is a sensible possibility, don't accept it. Now, somebody stands near the Qutub Minar and says this was built by Prithviraj Chauhan, and it was built because Sanyukta had taken a pran that she will not eat. This is a guide. I stopped him. She had taken a pran that she will not let a morsel pass her lips in the morning before she had done a darshan of Jamnaji.
Yeah, I've heard this story on WhatsApp.
Okay. So I said, just 1 minute. You know how many steps there are? He didn't know. I said, there are 379 steps. Somebody who makes it a habit of climbing 379 steps on an empty stomach every morning, within a week will be down with serious arthritis. You can't climb 379, 380 steps every morning. And then I said, also, please remember that Prithviraj Chauhan did not rule from Delhi. His capital was Ajmer. So how did they commute between Ajmer and Delhi on a daily basis? So the tourists he had gathered, they dispersed. This fellow was very angry with me. I said, why do you do it? The facts are far more interesting.
Yeah.
You know,
And this is the basic fact, so it's not even like a lack of hard work to get to
this
them.
is the tallest rubble-built minaret in the world, and it is standing like that for 700 years.
It's that
Yeah.
go
So
to.
there are these basic things. For example, and quite a lot of this is spread by these guides. So everybody
And
who
what is the reason? Just to sensationalize, or it's like the
no,
the
but
the
there
ground version of WhatsApp?
no there because there is a invented history that is being circulated. It is not accidental, and quite a lot of that is has no foundation at all. It is pure figment of imagination, and it is a vitiated imagination. So outside the Taj, every guide will tell you that when the Taj was completed, Shah Jahan had the hands of all the workmen chopped. It is in textbooks. This is a story spun by some mentally deranged guide. From there, it has gone. So I take them there when we go to Agra, and I tell them, "Have you read this?" Yes, all of them have read that story. Then I ask them, it took 17 years to build, 20,000 laborers were working. At least once Shah Jahan would have thought in these 17 years that somebody will have to look after this building once he's gone. You'll need workmen who were masters at this craft. If he had chopped everybody's hands, who will repair the building? And I said, you go to any UP emporium in any state headquarter, they are selling Petra Diura work. There are at least 3 presidents' gold medal winners who are masters in this craft. And all of them live in Tajganj. Then why don't you connect these two things together? When somebody tells you that this is the Rasoi of Jodhabai, why don't you turn back and ask, why would Jodhabai be cooking food? Because the idea that a woman's place is the kitchen, even if she is the wife of the most powerful king in the world. Akbar there was nobody compared to him or Shah Jahan at the time when they were ruling. Why would his wife be in the
Cooking herself, yeah.
because वो अकबर जंग जीत के आएगा गरम गरम फुलके पका दे मुझे रोटी खानी you know this comes from this extremely narrow minded imagination that a woman has to be in the kitchen even if she is and Jodhabai didn't even exist.
Yeah.
You know,
That's a completely
she has a
different.
figment of imagination because Jodhabai was a name that Jahangir used to call his wife, whose actual name was Jagat Gosai. And
Yes,
she
I'm
was the
aware of
younger
that.
sister of Jodh Singh. Jodhabai was never married to Akbar. Jahangir's Rajput queen's name was Harkabai. But they spread all that, you know, no basis at all. ये जोधाबाई का महल है. जोधाबाई was actually Harkabai. She never lived in that building, you know. But
So these are just a few of the things which are,
it is from these guides that it goes into cinema.
I was just coming to that. Then
Jodha
that
Akbar and Mughal-e
Bollywood, then
Azam and the two Jodha Akbar serials. The entire
is
thing
figment.
Yes.
And that's popular culture then.
Yeah.
That
But
becomes
you
popular
create
culture.
this, you know.
Yeah.
So
Create and then propagate.
Yeah.
So
if you are doing heritage walks and you love history and you love your city, it is your responsibility to try to counter this instead of adding to this.
So, incorrect facts and correcting incorrect facts is just one challenge. What are the other challenges that you face, while conducting? To go into certain areas, would you need permissions, or can you just go and somebody would really,
No,
you need government permission
no.
to enter some
I
area?
have, there is.
Or do they have to be supported by the government? Not all of them, I'm
No.
sure.
You see, there is a thing called the authorized guides. These are approved guides. And it is unfortunate that there is no institute that trains them.
Yeah.
Many of these guides, it began in Agra originally. It was Agra, Fatehpur Sikri. When the ASI took over these places in the 1990s, 2000 and 1890s and the early 20th century, the people who were working in restoration, who were the ASI staff, and many of the local people who were involved in the restoration and repair work and all that, many of them became guides later. And then it is their children and their grandchildren who have virtually become hereditary guides, and they have, some of them have appeared, some of them have prepared, but quite a lot of them are just guides because their fathers were guides, and they spread quite a lot of that. The ASI seriously wanted to set up an institute to train people, train masters in history as guides, so that it becomes a respectable profession with standard fees. You go to the Taj or you go to the Red Fort, and if you've seen guide, they'll say 200 रुपये में दिखा दूंगा जी. You tell him नहीं 200 रुपये नहीं है, 150 दे दो.
Yeah, that's what I was coming to. There is it's not standardized or this thing.
No. And there is no respect.
There is no respect.
There is no respect.
But that goes then both ways. Now there is no respect, and then he's also kind of selling himself cheap.
Yeah.
So
because there are so many people. But fortunately, I have never had any problem. Partly it happened because the Authorized Guides Association, they had their meeting in Delhi, and they invited me to conduct a walk with them. So there were about 80 of them, and I did a 5-hour walk with them in Jamali Kamali. These were guides from Delhi, from Agra, from Fatehpur Sikri, from Jaipur, from Jaisalmer, so all this area. And if you go to a place and you take some people for a guided tour, It is these guides who protest. आप कौन है जी? Because as per there is a rule that if you're not an authorized guide, you can't take people for a walk. You can't become a guide. But I've never been stopped.
And does the
Never.
government support these walks in any which ways, or can it support in any which ways,
It
especially in
can,
Delhi?
it can, because the Delhi government has started doing
Just
something.
launched it. I read that Delhi government has
Yeah,
launched
yeah,
these
yeah,
walks. I
yeah,
think that
yeah.
was also because they became popular at this point of time. It's a
Yeah,
good
because they
effort.
have called me a couple of times
Hmm.
to lead a walk for. So they
For the-
organize the walk, I go and lead it. So, and governments can intervene.
Yeah.
And I'd much rather that instead of private agencies, it is elected governments who took the responsibility and who also took the responsibility of ensuring that that people who are doing these walks are educated people.
Yeah,
People
certifying
who
them
know
in
the-
some way.
and who know their history.
Yes.
So you could probably ask them and say, come and tell us, what are you going to show in Humayun's tomb? What will you show?
Yeah, but then
What
with,
do you
with
talk
governments
about?
getting involved, it can also lead to a kind of, some
Absolutely.
kind of development and basic
Yeah.
facilities. Like I feel bathrooms, for
Yeah,
example.
yeah. No,
A
this is something
basic-
that I have raised. I have
Yeah, this is a
raised it
very basic
repeatedly.
thing to have access to bathrooms in any urban area,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
an
yeah,
area where
yeah,
you,
yeah.
any particular area in Delhi you want to do a walk, but there is no access at this point to do it.
No, there is one. I want to do a walk in the Nabi Karim area, and because Mirza Ibrahim Zauq is buried there. He was a contemporary of Ghalib, and Firoz Tughlaq's son is buried there, and it's a very important area. But it is all built over all around. And a friend of mine,
Which part of Delhi would this be?
this is in Pahadgajari,
Okay.
Nabi Karim. So a friend of mine who's written a book on the 19th century poets of Delhi, he and another friend's son, they spent weeks wandering around finally to locate the grave of Zauq. Because for many years they had built a toilet on top of it.
I've read this somewhere. It's been on the news. Yeah.
So there are a whole lot of places like this in the city.
But also there's like I feel an issue which Delhi any which faces, like there are multiple government agencies, and for especially in the heritage areas, there would the ASI, Archaeological Survey of India would have a say and a present, and then there's the Delhi government, and then there is the access would probably be controlled by another. So perhaps
this is something that I pointed out on this one program that they had organized, and they had called me and they had called Professor Swapna Little. So, and there when I was asked to speak, Swapna was the lead who talked about this whole heritage thing, restoration and all that, and I had 5-7 minutes to speak. So I said there, why don't you have this area? It has about 7 or 8 protected monuments, 4 protected by Delhi government, 6 protected by Archaeological Survey of India. The ASI protected monuments open at sunrise. The Delhi government protected monuments open at 10 o'clock. I'm a tourist.
Right.
Half the buildings are closed, wo 10 baje khulengi, the others open at 7 o'clock. And I said, in this large campus, have at least one clean toilet. And I said, for heaven's sake, make toilets for women free.
Yes.
Because women have no place to go in this country.
No,
men can go and stand anywhere,
but that's a huge detriment.
Absolutely.
For different age groups or
Yes,
even for children to
yes,
come, because
yes,
there's
yes.
no access to a basic facility. I mean, first clean bathrooms and then clean water.
Yes.
Both have to be accessible for them to. We were also.
There is also a total lack of sensitivity in this. So the Qutub Minar complex didn't have a single clean toilet. Then a new toilet was built, very well designed and all that, accessible, ramp. I went there. I had taken some kids. I had to use the toilet. I went there, and there was this man sitting outside, and women had to pay 2 rupees, men had to pay 1 rupee, and then there was this foreign tourist who came in, and he used the loo, and he came out, and so he saw money is to be paid, so he said, "Hi, how much?" And this man sitting there said, $1, please. So from there, I called the superintending archaeologist of Delhi, who I knew at that time, and I said, you're charging that man 500 rupees. We can't give him a clean toilet and free. I said, this is shameful. This is a World Heritage Site. Fortunately, he moved, and that place became free. But you go there, you can't step inside today.
I can imagine.
It is always water there.
I can
the taps are leaking.
That's actually one of the banes of creating public utilities, because they're not being made sustainable.
But but you have to appoint staff, train, pay them. This is the least we can do.
And they're all part of the same chain.
Yeah.
I mean, they're part of the...
And how are we going to become the a world power if we can't even keep our toilets clean?
Absolutely. We were talking earlier, and we were talking how that after the pandemic, communities wanted to come together, and so heritage walks also, when anything that you're doing as a group activity, it leads to a sense of community building. And also with the community that you're entering, they also can't be kind of how does one involve them and lead to a sense of community building for the areas that you're going in? It's their... I mean, it is a home for many people. How does it lead to a sense of community building and interaction between the people who are walking? Because that's how you get to know a little bit about the other.
So I can talk about my personal experience. On the group, that many of those people who come on my walks, they keep on coming, and so there is a sense of they know each other, and they begin to exchange addresses and all that. So now, since I've started taking trips out also, so there is a group of 7 or 8 people which call themselves the Orcha group, or the Orchis. They meet regularly.
And they're from all Orcha?
No, they are the people who join my Orcha group.
Okay.
So there is a Mandu group. So at one level, this is happening.
There is a sense of community.
The other thing that is happening is that at least in Delhi, I don't know about other places, I have several people who conduct heritage walks in Delhi. We are in constant touch. We meet occasionally. One of them has a Haveli. He organizes concerts. So all of us go there. If somebody approaches me for a walk and I'm busy, and I call him and ask him if he's free, so he will do the walk when I'm busy. When he is occupied and somebody approaches me, he passes on to me. So there is this kind of a network.
And you're on, I mean, people can connect with you on Instagram and this thing?
I am on Instagram. I don't understand it. My daughter has opened it. So whenever somebody posts, asks a question, she calls me and tells me, and I respond. But I am on WhatsApp. I am on, but I prefer to talk to people on phone or to receive an email. So I tell them, please send me an email or call.
And then I was also asking about how, can you involve the local communities in whose area one is going? How can heritage walks help to become a sense, give them a sense of pride in their own?
You see, we tried doing it in a couple of places. And we set up an organization, again thanks to Professor Narayani Gupta's initiative. Friends of ASI we formed. And the then Director General of ASI, we went and met him, and we told him we want to float this to create a space where a dialogue was possible. And we felt the need of this in this area called Shivalik. It has a 14th century mosque called the Begumpur Mosque.
Yes, of course. Okay.
And the people who live on 3 sides of Begumpur, they all used to live inside the mosque.
Yes,
In
yeah,
1958, they were asked to move out
Hmm.
because the law had come,
Hmm.
and they were told build within 50 yards. So they built within 50 yards. Now the law has changed.
Yes,
Now the law is 100 yards.
100 yards, yeah.
These people who built according to the law
Hmm.
in 1958,
Hmm.
they can't add a room to their house because now it is 100 yards.
100, yeah. That's a, yeah.
And
Nizamuddin has
they
the same problem.
hate the ASI. And this is what we were telling the ASI people.
Hmm.
These laws were made by the British,
Hmm.
who treated every Indian as their enemy.
Yes. And keep them away
But
from your own monuments, yeah.
these laws need to be changed. They are our people, and their life is important.
Yes.
So हमने ये कोशिश की कि ASI designate somebody और उनके साथ हम बीच में मध्यस्थ बन के गाँव वालों के साथ कुछ बातचीत शुरू करें.
Mhm.
गाँव वालों ने कहा कि देखिए हमको एक तो ये परमिशंस चाहिए. आई मेट समबडी
Hmm.
who took me inside the mosque
Hmm.
and he showed me one corner where he was born.
Hmm.
He said मेरी माँ दुल्हन बन के यहाँ पे आई थी
Hmm.
और मेरे दादा दादी और मेरे फादर और उनके भाई यहाँ रहते थे. I was born here.
Hmm.
Then they were moved out
Hmm.
in late 1950s, 60s.
That also alienates people, na? From, yeah. That alienates,
Absolutely.
gives,
They,
yeah.
so, and then he went to school, went to college, got into the IFS, retired, and now his grandson was getting married. And he wanted to add a room for his grandson and his
Hmm.
wife that will come.
Hmm.
Some privacy they need.
Hmm. But that
And
was not allowed.
He wasn't being given the permission.
Hmm.
So I talked to ASI people. I said, look, you need to look at this whole heritage thing
Hmm.
from a different perspective.
But that will require change in policy.
No,
and,
not only that.
Hmm.
You will need to find, if you want this place protected,
Hmm.
you need to buy land, build houses for these people, relocate them,
Hmm.
which is something that has happened at Nizamuddin.
Hmm.
Many of those people were relocated
Yeah.
because the Dorabji Tata Trust and Aga Khan and
You're
all
talking
that.
of the Basti.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were
Yeah.
able to find funds
Yeah.
around the
Yeah. Yeah,
around the
that's
Bauli,
yeah.
around
Yeah,
the
around the
Bauli.
Bauli, yeah.
But if you are serious about heritage conservation,
There has to be some. I
you
think
have
that is.
to-
We were, in
absolutely.
fact,
You have
we
to
have been
invest in
talking
it.
of Nizamuddin, and that's.
Yeah,
I think one of a good example of public-private
Yeah,
partnership
yeah,
which
yeah.
has come, and perhaps I kind of feel the idea of having pilot projects like this is that then they're emulated.
yeah, yeah.
So
Because
Nizamuddin and the
what
work that.
happened to that garden outside the school?
Hmm. Hmm.
It used to be, all kinds of druggies used to hang
You're
around
talking
there.
of the Hazrat the garden
Yeah,
in Hazrat.
yeah,
Yes.
Now
Yeah.
what a place it has become.
Yeah, and it is used by the community.
Absolutely.
So,
and
and it's,
what has
yeah.
happened to the school, the primary school,
Yes.
how totally transformed
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
And kids love going to school now.
So that was all
You know.
part of my
No,
constituency,
but
and I'm very proud of it.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
the work that we could achieve there, that now that garden not only is there an annual get together, a mela which is held every year, but it's become a source of revenue because it's given for marriages and functions to the residents of the Basti. It's also a safe place for women. So we call one of the parks which we've reclaimed as the ladies park. And the women can go there and children can go there. So, but that is actually an example of a lot of all these government agencies coming together.
Absolutely.
To work,
And also the way the youth of that area who just used to hang around at the pawn shop because there's nothing to do.
Yes.
Some of them have become guides who conduct heritage walks in that area.
Yeah. In the Humayun's tomb, there are some of them are running guides.
Yeah, Humayun's tomb in.
But you know what
Abdul
I
Rahman
find
Khan
very
Khana.
interesting is that the sense of pride, because here was this urban cluster in the heart of Delhi, and people had no sense of the area that they're living in, or and there's unemployment. So this project, the Nizamuddin project, has actually given them a sense of pride and ownership, which is
Absolutely,
what I was, how
absolutely.
the
No,
community involvement is.
absolutely. And you
So
can do this to every
every
area
area,
in
yeah, it should be
Delhi.
a pilot project which
Yeah,
can
you
be,
can do it to
yeah.
Sadar Bazaar, you can do it to Chitli
Hmm.
Kabar, you can do it to Mayapuri, all
We
these
need more
areas.
private
Yes.
partnerships coming in. I agree. So before we end the podcast, I want to ask you, what are the heritage walks you'll recommend to people in Delhi? Somebody who's just starting out. What is the first heritage walk you'll say that
Well,
do this?
what I prefer to do is to move chronologically. So I begin with the first Delhi and I do
Hmm.
3 walks there. Because if you follow this,
Hmm.
then you understand what is happening architecturally. How are things
Yes.
evolving? And you begin to see connections,
Hmm.
and it helps you break the myths. We are taught
Wow.
about Mughal architecture as if that was something that uh, dropped from the heavens in a parachute. They are buildings built just before the so-called Mughal architecture
Hmm.
arrives.
Hmm.
Between them and early Mughal architecture, there are no differences.
Hmm.
The mosque built by Mahamanga opposite Nizamuddin,
Hmm.
opposite the zoo,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
and the mausoleum of Adham Khan.
Yes.
How are they different from
Yes.
Lodi
Yes.
period
Yeah.
architecture?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
these. So there is a continuity, and in all ancient societies, all ancient
Hmm.
cultures, which is what we talk about, there is a
Hmm.
continuity and there is change.
Hmm.
The moment you break continuity, you
Hmm.
stop seeing the connections that have brought us here.
Yeah, to the point that we
You
try.
know,
Yeah.
and once you understand this continuity, you also know the path forward.
Yeah.
Without that understanding of continuity, you don't know which way to go.
Hmm.
So that is crucial, and that is why I would prefer,
To
if
start right at
to
the beginning.
start with the ruins behind Mehrauli,
Hmm.
then do the water bodies of Mehrauli, which is the second walk I do,
Hmm.
then do Qutub Minar.
And tell me, somebody who's done a lot of walks, what is the one walk they should not miss? This season, this walk
Well,
definitely must be done.
I cannot
No,
say.
not one. You
No,
can't choose a favorite.
I don't think you can miss anything in Delhi.
Yes.
Actually, even if you want to rush through this city,
Hmm.
तो आपको 14 दिन तो चाहिए, 15 दिन तो
No, it's
चाहिए.
not.
एक
So
दिन में 2
definitely.
वॉक भी कर लेंगे आप.
Huh.
You need a fortnight to get the, you need to
Sense,
get
the
the
first
sense of
sense
the
of,
city.
yeah.
You know.
And I think maybe it is not something one should rush through in 1 year.
No, no.
Like, do it as a
Yeah,
sense of,
yeah. Keep coming back.
yeah.
Keep coming back. Keep like a good book.
Acha, tell me, yeah,
You know.
that's lovely. Like,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
heritage
yeah,
walk can
yeah,
actually be like
yeah,
a good
yeah,
book, and you
yeah.
can revisit the same heritage
Yes,
walk again
yeah,
and
yeah,
again.
yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
Tell me, before we end, why
Yeah.
would you recommend for, let's say, Delhiites to take heritage walks in their own city? What is?
You should know where you are living. And I find it strange. I met this young girl who taught at my center for a while. She was born in South Extension, went to school in South Extension. After doing her higher secondary, she joined the College of Arts. And after doing her 5 year or 6 year course, whatever, she came and joined us at Leap Years. One day she called me, sir, मुझे दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी जाना है, कैसे जाऊं? So I started telling her. She didn't know. So I said, तुम अपने कॉलेज पहुंच जाओगी? She said, हाँ. So ना ऐसे वहां से सीधे जाना, एक मेट्रो का एक फुट ओवर ब्रिज है, एक मेट्रो का पुल है, एक रेल का पुल है, उनके तीनों से नीचे निकल जाओगी तो आईटीओ क्रॉसिंग पे जाओगी. She did not know ITO क्रॉसिंग. कॉलेज ऑफ आर्ट सुप्रीम कोर्ट के सामने है.
Just वहीं तक she had been, yeah.
I said, तुमने how did you go through college? She couldn't get to Bengali market from her college. I had to give her directions. Now this is the total lack of curiosity
Which we
which
were
I
talking
mentioned.
about earlier, yeah, yeah.
And I was doing a walk for the students of history of Miranda College, second year and third year students in Chandni Chowk. and I had told them to meet me outside the Jain Mandir. There must have been about 40, 50 students and 3, 4 of the faculty. So I asked them, how many of you have been inside Red Fort? More than 70% hadn't been.
Had not been. 70% had
Had
not
not
been.
been to Red Fort, and more than 50% of them are Delhi residents. And they are students of history. I said, how can you be a student of history living in Delhi, not visit the Red Fort? This was the center of 1857. This is where the idea of modern India took
Yes,
its, this is where it began to flourish.
So I guess you actually don't even have to be a student of history.
No, you don't have
You just
to be,
have to
but more
just be
specifically,
curious about your city
yeah,
to.
yeah, you need to know.
Yes.
And how I came to know Shahjahanabad was primarily because when we were kids, we went to Aligarh, then we came back and we've been living in New Delhi, though I was born in the old city. I had a senior to me who lived in Ballimaran. He loved to walk and I loved to walk. So we had made this very early after we got friendly and we realized that both of us love walking. We used to walk from Delhi University to Ballimaran every day. And we will approach his house from a different route every day.
Achha, every day you would take a different
Every
route.
day we'll go through another lane.
And you're a student of history.
No, I'm a student of geography.
Achha, okay.
So I've never studied history. That's why I
Okay.
don't want to be called.
You can't be called a
No, no.
historian, yeah.
So, but I love this city. This is my city. And but that is how I discovered these streets, lanes, by lanes. And even now I don't know all the lanes. So every time I go there, I try
There's a
to,
discovery for
yeah,
you also.
yeah.
But thank you so much, Sohail Saab.
Pleasure.
It's been
My
an
pleasure.
absolutely delightful and enlightening
pleasure
conversation. And I hope I can get you back once more because there is so much we can talk about in
Sure,
each
sure,
part
sure,
of Delhi,
sure, yes,
actually.
yes.
And I think we found a common ground. It's a city we both love dearly and care about. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much.
Thank you
Sohail
very
Saab.
much for calling me. Thank you.
Join us next time as we explore Delhi's hidden gems, people, places, and stories on Delhi Love, Ishq Mohabbat Pyar. I'm Yasmin Kidwai. Until next time on Red FM, Bajate Raho.